Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. We are well on our way into July, so I hope you all are enjoying your summer. It's been a bit rainy here in Toronto, but we're hoping for some nice weather next week. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast and media company. I'm also the host of Blended, which is the newest conversation in diversity and inclusion. And I'm super excited to be here with you for another episode of Thoughts and Coffee. Audrey Ross is back with me today. But before I bring her up on stage, she's been through all sorts of things in the last week, chilling at a cottage. So I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that. But before we do that, let's talk about what is happening on Let's Talk Supply Chain this week. So our episode of the week, I should probably press play so you guys can see what's going on here, is with Easy Mile. These guys have an incredible opportunity for anybody that's looking to utilize autonomous vehicles in their factories or outside of their factories, going from one building to another. We do a deep dive into what they're doing, what their robots are doing, how they're helping companies move products from one side of a facility to another. And it's really an incredible story. So I hope you guys go and check that out. It is, of course, wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast. We are also now putting these episodes on YouTube. So if you want to go and check it out on the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube page as well, we've got full episodes over there. Or you can go to our brand new website. That's right. We just launched our brand new website, letstalksupplychain.com. Super proud of it. Trying to make things a little bit more organized for all of you looking for our content. What else have we got? Oh, I also want to talk to you guys about our franchise. So if you haven't seen it, we've just franchised into Asia Pac. Jonathan's going to be the host of that podcast. He is right now working on some amazing content around supply chain in Asia Pac. But if you haven't gone and followed their page, go and follow it now, because as soon as they start bringing out the content, you're going to want to know. And the only way to do that is to follow them on their LinkedIn page. So it's Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia Pac. So go and follow them, and you're going to be one of the first people to know what is going on over there as well. What else is happening? Well, we have some brand new live shows. So Abby Baird has her second episode of Coming in Hot, and she's going to be talking all about what it's like to start a career in supply chain, what it's like to be a student in supply chain, and how to transfer that into a career. And so that will be the last Thursday of the month at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We've also got Eric Johnson hosting his own show, sponsored by Chain.io. And his first episode is going to be August 6th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I cannot wait. I think it's going to be a great, great, great show. And he's got some really, really good guests lining up. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. And then we're working on another brand new show all about sustainability and blockchain. That's right. I know I haven't heard those two words together in a very long time, or if at all, but we're going to bring it together in a show once a month, talking about sustainability, what people are doing right, what they could be potentially working on, and how blockchain can actually help them with their sustainability programs. So I can't wait for that one. That one's going to be launching in September as well. So can't wait. And then in a couple of weeks, I am going to the UK, and Audrey is going to take over as host for a couple of the episodes, and then I will be back after that. So let's bring her up. Audrey, are you ready? You left us for a moment, so I was a little bit concerned. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Doing well. I'm rested and back from vacation last week, so.
Rested? You seem like you're losing your voice.
Well.
Were you partying and screaming really loud?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, tech issues, of course. It's sort of thunderstormy here, so I guess, I don't know.
One of those things, right? One of those mornings.
Yeah.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are for those that don't know who you are. I mean,
Right.
you're my trade bestie. Everybody,
Yeah.
I think, knows that by now. And you're an amazing supply chain expert going through all sorts of things like all the other supply chain leaders out there. So introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Audrey Ross. I'm here in Toronto. I'm the in-house specialist at Orchard Custom Beauty. We specialize in cosmetics, beauty tools, and bath accessories. And yeah, trying to run a supply chain in the year 2020, 2021, and it's not going that great, but we keep
It's
at
not?
it.
Why not?
It's a few tiny things. There were so many things already. And then yesterday I got a note about forest fires and in Canada, the rail stopping. So there's no rail for 3 days.
Somebody
So,
actually sent me an article on that, but I didn't have a chance to actually throw it up for today. So
yeah.
maybe we'll talk about that next week. But I also want to give a shout out to some of the people that are joining us on my personal LinkedIn page. We've got Samir, we've got Sandri, we've got the AR group, and Demo is over on my personal LinkedIn page. We have not seen you in a while. I hope everything is going well. I think Demo is going crazy. Things are going really
Panama.
well out in Panama. One of the other things that I wanted to mention was we are running a contest every single month for the person that engages the most with our posts, with Thoughts and Coffee, with our live shows. And so last week, I didn't announce who the winner was. We announced it separately on our social media. So Peter was the winner of our Let's Talk Supply Chain mug. And actually, I need to pull up this picture because he sent me a picture this morning and I think everybody's going to want to see it, but I'm not entirely sure.
I want to see it.
There it is. Okay. There is Peter with his mug this morning. Well done, Peter.
I love it.
So if anybody wants a Let's Talk Supply Chain mug or some swag, remember that you want to engage with what we're doing on a monthly basis. And we're going to be mentioning and letting everybody know who the winner is at the end of the week. So that's exciting. So how was the cottage, by the way? Oh, and Joe says no rail. Do you want to elaborate on what's happening?
Just none. No. So there's a spot with forest fires. There's about 35 forest fires in BC right now that are active, and there's also extreme heat warnings. And so there's a spot where the Minister of Transportation in Canada has said that for 48 hours we can't have either CN or CP pass through this one area, and it's an area that they both share, of course. So it's a sort of a hub of track that they share. So that's closed for 48 hours. I know CN has other track that they're trying to divert to. We'll see how that goes. But it's on my LinkedIn page. I posted an article about it, so I can drop that in the comments later.
Yeah, please do. I think that would be awesome. And I know that Davin and Peter are talking all about Davin's latest trek because he's going to be going on a month road trip, which is
no
awesome.
way.
So we wish you all the best, and I hope that you have an amazing, amazing time. Grant has joined us. Grant was on an episode of Blended a few episodes ago, and if you guys didn't check that out, go and check it out because definitely. He is a star. And Joe says thanks for the update. We did a cross-country train trip a couple of weeks ago, and we had to slow down in many spots because of the heat. Yes,
the rails spark will send sparks and start the fires.
Oh, is that what happened?
So now they all have to slow down, and they have fire safety officers that walk along with the train. It's a lot.
Well, and it's been crazy, right? I think they saw 46 degrees, which when I did the calculation was 115 degrees Fahrenheit on the West Coast, and none of them have air conditioning.
No.
Which is crazy, 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 crazy. All right. I think we need to get into what we're going to be talking about today. Do you have any idea what we're talking about today? Because I'm not entirely sure.
What are we starting off with? Are we starting off with my buddies, the trade experts? Are we?
No. That's in a little
No.
bit.
Okay.
So I think what we're going to do is usually we have done the question of the week where we talk about
Yeah.
what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know what the question of the week is going to be tomorrow. So I think what we're going to start doing on Thoughts and Coffee is we're going to start talking about the question of the week that happened last week. And
Okay.
you weren't here last week, but I think we asked about a 1-year sabbatical. If you had a chance to do a 1-year sabbatical, what would you do? Where would you go? And we had some really, really great answers. I don't have it lined up right now. So if I can line it up really quickly, then we can talk about some of the answers. But I think moving forward, what we'll do is we'll let everybody know what those answers were to that question.
Oh, okay. I like that.
I think I think that'll be a lot more fun. But for you, when we're talking about this question of the week and you weren't really a part of it, what would you do on that sabbatical?
Gosh. I saw so many answers were talking about travel. Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, it'd probably be to travel and move somewhere else for a little bit. If I didn't have sort of the day to day, although now with working remotely, maybe I can still pull it off. That would be not a full sabbatical. Right? Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know, write my memoirs, such as they are.
Memoir. I think I'm gonna write a memoir. No.
Yeah. No.
I don't think that's what I do. I would definitely travel and go see different things. There was a lot of fun answers, like writing a book, like you said. I think people said writing a book, learning a new language, going and living somewhere else and learning that language and just immersing in culture, which I thought was really, really cool. I think I can't remember what else there was, but a lot of it was around travel, or spending more time with family, like the family that you really haven't been able to see in the last 18 months. So
I saw a couple comments about like spend time with my dad or, visit with my grandparents who I just never get to see, like we get into these busyness things. And I think with the pandemic, we've realized that, sort of work will always be there. Like there will always be goods that need to go on a container and then go on a vessel. But my grandparents, like I'm lucky I still have one set, but they're 85. So, I got to see them on Sunday, but.
Look, Joe is going to start a travel blog. I love
there we go.
I love it. And so over on my personal LinkedIn, Demo says he needs one of our mugs. So Demo, you're going to have to engage with us a little bit more this month. And then maybe you can be a winner at the end of the month. All right, let's talk about my thoughts and coffee post. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I posted a video of my dog. So this is my dog, and she's been struggling to get up on the couch. And so this is us encouraging her to get up on the couch. We're like, come on, Kenzie, come on. Like, you can't hear this, but we're like, come on, Kenzie, you can do this. You can do this. So what we did was we did a post around believing in yourself. Because it took a couple of tries, as you can see. It took a couple of tries. She's trying. And then eventually gets up. But that is a typical moment, right? For a lot of us, when we start new things, when we try different things, it doesn't come naturally sometimes right off the bat. We have to keep trying and we have to keep trying and we have to keep trying. And so that's why we showed this video on Sunday. See, she got up. Yay.
She did it.
So excited, and she was so excited. And so the whole post was about believing in yourself. You're capable of more than you know. What did you think about this post? For me, this is something that I have talked about a lot. It's something that I try to do every single day in my affirmations, to be like, yes, you know what, you've got this. Because I think for everybody, self-doubt creeps in all sorts of different ways, right?
Yeah. No, self-doubt is huge. And I think we sometimes get stuck thinking that we're the only people who go through it. Like I'm the only person who doesn't think that I can do something. And, nobody else goes around thinking like that. And then as it turns out, it's like, oh no, most people come into these, moments of fear and hesitation. And so I think the post resonates with a lot of people because it turns out we're all sort of going through a similar thing. And I wasn't the only one. I think Rhonda too. It was like, you kind of do, sometimes you have to remind yourself. There was a couple of people, it's like, who do the pep talk thing, which I sometimes do. I'm like, you can get this done. You have done hard things before. You can do this, Audrey.
Hopefully with a little bit more of a loving tone.
Yeah. No, probably not. If it's me, if it was you, if it was my friend, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like this is so great. You can of course accomplish everything because you're the best. But like me, sometimes it's like, girl, you need to buckle down.
But it's so true, right? We would be nicer to each other than we would be to ourselves. And so we have to be a little bit nicer when we're
we have to remind. Yeah, I have to pep talk myself into that too.
All right, let's get to the supply chain topics, people.
Yeah. Okay,
we are getting to the most important one so far right now. And that is that booze costs are going up, people.
It's already expensive.
And because of supply chain. Actually, one of the funniest things that I thought from this article is that they noted supply chain disruptions as to be the cause of this. The only 3 things they listed as supply chain disruptions was weather, hackers, and the pandemic. Oh. Did you read that?
Those are things that contribute.
Uh-huh. But they're not the only things that have contributed to the inflation and the supply chain or that have been the
the pandemic is a big one though.
The pandemic is a big one, but it's very, very broad. There's so many different things that we could talk about in supply chain.
Oh yeah, because each area is having their own.
Yeah.
So
anyways, I don't know what you thought about this article, but that was the one thing that I thought was pretty funny about this article was that they had only listed these 3 things: the inclement weather, hackers, and the pandemic.
Yeah.
So Daphne makes his own wine. Wow.
Oh, well, there we go.
Awesome. Well, So what did you think, Audrey?
He'll be fine. Well, I think it's yet another segment that we're going to see costs rising on. I think 2 Dots and Coffees ago, I was like, if you do holiday shopping or if you need gifts for the fall, you want to get those soon because prices are going to go up. I think we've seen a lot of articles about supply chain disruptions, but that hasn't actually translated yet into price increases or shortages. And we're going to start seeing those through the fall. So
Peter's going to come to Ontario and buy cheaper because we have lower taxes. Interesting. And Rhonda says spent $100 on grocery and hardly bought anything. Ice cream is $7.
$7,
Rhonda, I don't know what kind of ice cream that you're buying, but you may need
every kind.
You might need to move to Canada. It's actually cheaper. No, the US is cheaper. Anyways, another interesting thing about this article was they talked about truckload. So we talk a lot about ocean freight and air freight, but they talked a lot about truckload and how driving beer 600 miles has doubled in price. Yeah. And now it's costing something like $2,000. And so a lot of the microbreweries can't really afford the higher cost in the transportation. No. So of course it's going to be translated over to consumers.
And these are also the kinds of companies that maybe they don't necessarily have someone in-house or they're not quite aware of the market. Like, for me, it's, once you see one thing start to go up, it's like, well, inevitably X, Y, Z will follow. So like I expected that trucking costs would start to go up, but like I have a different view. So for small to medium businesses, it can be a real surprise. And of course, they're not, some of them, haven't had to plan for these kinds of costs before. But if you look at, I do a lot of trucking in Europe and the UK, and my truck rate with Brexit from Europe to Ireland, which Republic of Ireland is still part of the EU, but the pricing for a truck from last year to this year, it's insane.
Well, and so Peter just made a good point that reefer costs are up big time.
Oh, that's
vaccine delivery.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really think about. And then Kadar says driver shortages is also a driver.
Can't get a driver.
I see what you did there. I see what you did. Driver of cost increases as well. Well, the other thing too is apparently aluminum is up 70% as well, which I didn't know. That was the one area that I hadn't heard of, but it's up by 70%. And of course, a lot of beer is, beer cans are made with aluminum.
And it was at some point, it's been part of the tariffs, either between the US and Canada, between Europe and the US. Like it at some point, or China and the US, it was hit by tariffs, aluminum and metals and things like that. So
Crazy, crazy,
yeah.
crazy. All right. What's our second one? So this is
Ugh.
talking about ocean carrier reliability. Now, this is a fun one for me because I was reading this article, and I think one of the best quotes that comes out of this article is that you are more likely to correctly guess a coin flip than actually get your container on a vessel, because right now I think the average, what was it? The average on time is at 38%. Maersk is the most punctual at 46%. Evergreen is the lowest, I think, at 25%. And so, with all of those stats, you are more likely to correctly guess a coin flip than you are to get your vessel on a ship on time. Which I thought was, I mean, I'm sorry to laugh because Audrey, that is the bane of your existence. You probably don't want to hear that, but I thought that was the best quote ever.
Oh, it's a tough world out there right now, getting stuff onto a boat and actually having it get on the boat that you thought you were getting on. So I think I've talked a little bit. I've had stuff that I've been booking since June, and it still isn't confirmed and still hasn't left.
Well, so Peter says you
June
just need to
10th, June
throw
11th.
money at it. Peter says you just need to throw money at
No, not always.
it. Tell him, Audrey.
I'm throwing 22,000 this morning, but I refused 27.5 on Thursday or Friday because the soonest they had was August. So
As we wait for Peter to comment back.
yeah, as I wait for
We're waiting.
No, I mean it's true. It's true. Like you can throw money at it, but there's literally like you'll find out there's a blank sailing. So whatever, it's like you can throw money at it and get it on board, but there's still no guarantee that it's on that vessel until that vessel is going. Like that's where like it's totally off. I mean off the rails, but it's totally off. You know, whatever we did before, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, it's just like it's completely topsy turvy. So things where you're like, I'll just take $26,000 for this 40-foot, and it's like, okay, well, it'll sail like August 18th. You're like, my goods are ready June 25th. Like, please, you know.
What do I tell my customer?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that it said in this article was that it's the stress test from hell.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
the intelligence coming in there with the lake.
But what you might not like is that they said if demand doesn't change, capacity will be dried up for the next 3 years and freight rates will stay the same. So tell me about this, because if that happens, what happens to your world? Do you take a look at different supply chain strategies and where you're actually buying product? Does that move you to make big changes?
I think that's been the thing. I think we all thought it was very temporary. So back in November when you started to see the start of it and like, oh, well, we'll get through Chinese New Year and see. And then now it's a mess. And then now I keep seeing kind of pundits, market specialists, whatever. It's like, well, we'll get through this next 2022 Chinese New Year and we'll see. Maybe that'll reset it. And you're like, if I think it's going to be 3 years, yeah, I'm not going to keep buying stuff from where I'm buying it. You're going to want to try to shift. But even 3 years isn't necessarily enough time to get manufacturing up to speed to where it was. And you look at some of the larger retailers, they produce thousands of goods at a time. And like, there's just you look to Canada, especially, we just don't have that manufacturing capability at this point. And how would you get it in 2 years? So even then, like, yes, there's certain things where you're like, okay, if I know that we already have a filler, outside of Montreal, like, can they increase their capacity in production? But how many of us are going to school for chemistry to become cosmetic fillers? So I don't know.
Maybe that's the next thing we need to promote.
That could be the next thing.
Supply chain, and then you also need to take chemistry so that you can become.
Yeah, please become a cosmetic filler specifically and a plastics manufacturer. That'd be great. Or come up with the latest and like sustainable, not plastic, but something better.
Flexible packaging, which I learned from Sarah Scudder, which is the pouches right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing
Yeah.
more and more pouches with the food in it
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's a more sustainable packaging.
Type of
But
packaging. Yeah.
would that help at all? Rather than like if you change from plastic to
Oh,
something that's
we're doing a ton of different stuff with biodegradable papers. We've got our company does a plastic, and we launched one of the first plastic paper blends. So it reduces the plastic to like 20%, and then the outside exterior is biodegradable paper at 80%. I mean, there's lots of stuff that's coming and it's hitting the market. It's just getting into the mass, right?
You got a
And
question from Kadar.
oh
Maybe
yeah,
contract some on the ground folks at the port to negotiate container rates and get proof of loading the vessels.
yeah,
What do you think about that?
yeah. That's a possibility. I'm
Or you
open to
can,
a lot of creative solutions here, Kadars.
or you could,
Instead of paying 27,500, I'm yeah. Let's get creative.
or well, actually, why not? You posted a picture yesterday. I don't have the picture, otherwise I would post it right now so that everybody could see it. But you
Yeah.
were in a kayak. And you
Oh
said
yeah.
that that might need to be your main source
Yeah.
of vessel to actually start moving products if it keeps going the way that it's going.
Yeah. I'm
That
just
might
gonna
be a
start my own little
long
kayak
that
service.
might
Yeah.
be a long haul if you
Yeah.
don't change your suppliers to local, but
Yeah.
anyway. All right. We've got 4 minutes left and we still have one more article to go. And this one is a big one. Okay.
Yeah.
For the morning, this one is a big one. So I don't know if you guys have heard about the trade experts. I was put onto them last year and really just started getting into their blog. They talk a lot about trade policy, and so it is a little bit heavy. But I do like what they're talking about, and I do like what they're writing about. And this particular one caught my eye because they're talking about free trade agreements, and we're talking about how they are putting particular policies into those free trade agreements around sustainable production. But what they're also talking about is how everybody has to get on board. Because if one country does it and another country doesn't do it, then it becomes a competitive advantage or not a competitive advantage. And so we have a lot of hills to climb when it comes to sustainable production. But what they were saying is that the SEPA trade agreement, which is between Switzerland, right? Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway, Iceland, and Indonesia around palm oil. And they've actually put some of these sustainable production policies into that free trade agreement that's going to actually, and they're going to be enforcing it. So what did you think about this, Audrey? This is a really big one, guys. So I highly recommend that you go and read this article.
This is the thing though, trade agreements are, we're seeing more and more trade agreements across, you used to sort of see them very regionally. So of course in Canada, you have your trade agreement with the US and Mexico because they're right there next door to us. And so it's interesting now to start to see, the trade agreements used to also be fairly basic. It's just about cross-border trade. And now we're seeing them sort of a bit more elaborate. Right. So they're getting into these different mechanisms and they're getting into different areas. From a trade expert's perspective, we've seen a lot of women policy too, but it's interesting now to see the talk about carbon pricing or different manufacturing items and really getting into the nitty gritty. So this is a great read. It is a bit more into the trade policy piece. So it does get a bit more detailed. Because it's the how we are going to do this moving forward and all the legislation that's going to be around it.
Yeah. Well,
anything we can do where we're standardizing and coming together as the globe and not working separately, I'm all for. It does make things easier. And so the World Trade Organization is sort of meant to be that kind of hub to get us to work together. And so we'll see.
So some of the roadblocks, like I mentioned before, is unfair competition unless we all adopt it. But a couple of terms that they used was trade liberalization.
Yeah.
But we have to worry about the lack of domestic versus global strategies when it comes to actually putting some of these policies in place, because we run the risk of the social cost of trade, which I thought was pretty interesting. So there's obviously some pros because we're talking about sustainability and we're talking about not only, the emissions and the pollution and everything that comes out of supply chain, but all the way down to the human labor. And that's why the sanctions in this particular free trade agreement, or the policies in this free trade agreement, are so important, is because one of the biggest components is that labor and sort of the humanity part of the palm oil supply chain.
Yeah.
So highly, highly recommend that you guys go and read this article. Of course, we've got all the article links in the comments. We are at time, Peter. I am trying to stay on time, but we always go a little bit over. This was amazing. Thank you guys all for joining us. Remember to engage with us, because we are going to announce a winner at the end of the month. Congratulations to Peter. Thank you so much for all your engagement last month. And Audrey, thank you again for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's so fun. Like, I feel like I'm just chatting with my trade bestie.
And next week, I've got Sabrina Booker. She was actually on a blended episode. And so we're going to be talking all things supply chain. So I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you once again for joining us. And we'll see you next Tuesday.